Hello, good morning everyone. Remember, every day is a good day. There is something to learn, care, and celebrate. We are now on week 4 of our quarter, and for today, we will be discussing modals. This lesson highlights the different forms and use of modals. Modals are important features of language. As auxiliary verbs, they are helpful in expressing writer or speaker's intention. These intentions include ability, possibility, permission, obligation, request, and advice, among others. In this lesson, you are expected to identify the different types of modals and analyze their varying purposes. So, modals are auxiliary or more commonly known as helping verbs. They may be used in expressing permission, obligation, and prohibition. These are sample sentences with modals. I believe I can fly, which is the helping verb or which is the modal in the sentence. So the modal is can. The main verb is fly. Can fly is called a verb phrase. Second sentence. Cody must call the police after the incident. Our modal here is must. The verb it helps is call. So, the verb phrase is must call. The third one, Janine has to prepare for her exams. The modal here is has to. It is helping the verb prepare, has to prepare. And then the last example, we have Bernadette doesn't have to secure a permit for her to go out of her house. The modal here is doesn't have to. The main verb is secure. Now, let us discuss the different modals used for permission. Permission is an act of giving consent or authorization. In stating permission, modals to be used include can, could, and may. Can is used to ask for and give permission. Examples: can you give me your number? Can you help me with this? I can do it if you want me to. The first two sentences are asking for permission. The first one is asking permission from someone to give his or her number. The second one is asking permission from someone to extend his or her help over something. And then the third sentence gives permission to do something for someone if he or she will be allowed to do so. The next modal for permission is could. Could is also used as a more polite and more formal modal in asking permission, which may not be given. Examples: I could possibly ask my mom to cook it for us. Could I interview the mayor? Could you lend me your book? So these statements are more polite and more formal. I could possibly ask my mom to cook it for us. There is the word possibly. So if granted, or if the mom's schedule permit, then she could possibly cook for us. But if not, if she has so many schedule, then it might not be granted. Next, could I interview the mayor? It may be granted or it may not be granted, depending if the mayor is busy or not, if the mayor has schedule. And then the third, could you lend me your book? It may not be granted if the book is being used. The third modal is may. May is the most polite and formal modal used in asking and giving permission. Examples: medical practitioners affected by COVID-19 may now claim their financial support from the government. Teachers may now distribute the modules to the learners. May I borrow your book, please? This modal may be used if we are referring to authorities. So, these three, can, could, and may, are the modals used for permission. They vary from their intensity of use. Can is the most commonly used. We usually use this when we are talking to someone of our age or level. Could is used as a more polite and more formal way, while may is used in the most polite and formal manner. The next set of modals is used for prohibition. Prohibition is the act of disallowing or prohibiting someone in performing or doing something. Modals showing prohibition include can't and must not, or its contracted form, mustn't. Can't is used in dealing with something against rules, laws, and signs. This is used when the speaker is not the one who sets the rules. Example: you can't go out during the community quarantine. So, suppose I am the speaker and I am talking to my son, telling him that he can't go out during the community quarantine. So, prohibiting someone in performing or doing something which is against the rule. What is the rule? The quarantine policy. This quarantine policy was not set by me. Next, the company can't apply for motion for reconsideration. And then the third example, you can't buy any alcoholic beverages due to liquor ban. So that is the liquor ban policy. Next, must not or mustn't is used in dealing with something that is not permitted. In this context, it is the speaker who sets the rules. Example: you must not turn off your camera during online class. This is set by the teacher for her students. Next, mustn't you eat the fruits inside the fridge? From the mother to her child. And then the third example, Salome must not tell my secrets to her friends. That is according to a boss for his colleague. The third set of modals is for obligation. Obligation expresses commitment or duty. Modals used in expressing obligation include have to or has to and must. Has to or have to is used when obligation comes not from the speaker. Again, when the obligation comes not from the speaker, the obligation is set by an authority, rule, or law. Examples: I have to be in the airport before the flight departure. So, it is an obligation set not by the speaker but set by the airport. Okay? She has to submit her report on time. It shows obligation. The modal used is has to. So, the obligation did not come from the speaker. What is her obligation? To submit her report on time. So, this obligation was set by the teacher. Next, the company has to pay retrenchment benefits to its employee. The modal used is has to. What is the obligation? Pay retrenchment benefits to employees. Next, must. Must is used when expressing obligation which comes from the speaker or from an authority. Examples: I must call my husband now. So I am the speaker and my obligation is to call my husband. Next, we must finish the report on time. So that obligation was set by the speaker. And then another one, I must stay away from them. If we have modals that express obligation, we also have modals for no obligation. No obligation expresses the absence of commitment or duty, as one may do it or not. Don't, have to, or doesn't have to is used to express no obligation. Don't have to is used for plural subject, and doesn't have to is used for singular subject. Examples: she doesn't have to attend the funeral if she is not feeling well. Okay, so what is the modal used? Doesn't have or doesn't have to. Okay, it's not her obligation to attend the funeral if she is not feeling well. The next example: you don't have to come to my office in person. You may submit it online. And then the third, the employees don't have to come this morning as the activity will start in the afternoon. So now, after the discussion, you are all familiar with the different modals used in expressing permission, prohibition, and obligation. Now, let us explain the different tasks assigned in this lesson. For task 1, you are going to play the modal game and then answer the questions. Write your answers in your notebook. First, copy the modal game above in your notebook. And then identify how many skills or things you can do by coloring them with your favorite color. Be honest with your answers. One skill or thing that you can perform is equivalent to 1 point. So you may be coloring 10 squares, 11 squares, 15 squares, depending on the skill that you can do. And then, here are the interpretation of your points. If you got 1 to 5, you still need practice. 6 to 10, you are becoming talented or skillful. For 11 to 15 boxes colored, you are moderately talented or skillful. If you colored 16 to 20 boxes, congratulations because you are talented and skillful. If you colored 21 to 24 boxes, 5 claps for you. You are highly talented and skillful. And then, in 3 to 5 sentences, explain how the statements in the bingo game are constructed. For learning task 2, copy, study, and underline the different modals mentioned in the song Honestly by Harem's Karem. And then, for learning task 3 on page 20, using the models that you have identified in learning task 2, analyze the expression that each model portrays. Write your answer in your notebook. So what could be the possible answers? Possible answers are expressing permission, obligation, prohibition, ability, and so on. For learning task 4, choose the model that best completes each statement. For learning task 5, get an article from newspaper, journal, or other online sources. Copy or cut and paste in your notebook. Then, identify if the highlighted modals express permission, obligation, or prohibition. For learning task 6, find an infographic poster that uses modals. Paste it in your notebook. Identify the modals used and determine what it expresses. And finally, for learning task 7, copy and complete in your notebook the dialogue entitled Once Upon a Pandemic by supplying phrases or modals plus verbs expressing permission, obligation, or prohibition, whichever is necessary. So, what should you remember about this lesson? Do not forget, modals are auxiliary or helping verbs that may express permission, like can, could, and may. Prohibition, can't, or must not, or mustn't. Obligation, like have or has to, and must. And no obligation, like don't or doesn't have to. They are necessary to determine the weight of an action to be done or performed. They also help in understanding the source of permission, obligation, and or prohibition. So, this ends our lesson. Thank you for listening. Happy learning!